So the American right-wingers or sort of Republicans are having a small civil war, you could even call it to some extent. This started last week when Tucker Carlson invited Nick Fuentes to have on his show. Nick Fuentes is a infamous white nationalist, and this is not like you know, or I would even call it a neo-Nazi to some extent. And this is not, we just call people Nazis. It's like a person who advocates for deporting every single non-white person from America. This is the kind of person we are dealing with. This is not just like, a libel or something. So he had him on. Then afterwards, we had the Heritage Foundation, a big conservative think tank, coming in defense of Tucker Carlson. And now you have a lot of people, I think, really gladly to see a lot of people on the right coming out and say, hey, okay, like maybe we need a coalition against the left to fight it, which I think is proper, but maybe we shouldn't invite like actual anti-Semites into our sort of broad coalition. So this is what we'll discuss today on the reality show. Joining me today are Jonathan Deon and Michael Kaufman. It's great to have you guys on. And yeah, so I'll start with you, Jonathan. I'm not sure if you've seen the original Tucker interviewing Nick Fuentes, but yeah, we should start with that. Any thoughts on that one?
I have to admit, I've never heard of the name Nick Fuentes until this drama. Never heard of him. I was very happy that I've never heard of him, and now I have to be here on the show with you guys talking about it. So that's a bit upsetting, actually. I would have loved to continue my life without ever hearing about this individual. I haven't seen the interview fully. I've seen bits of it, and I've seen the full Ben Shapiro video, the 40-minute one that he did. So I think I got a good grasp of what he's about. And I don't know if I need to see any more of that. It's very disturbing, the state of a young man in America who's being a prominent voice, apparently. How does this happen? I think it's a educational failure, first and foremost. How do you such a person is attractive to the young generation in America? That should raise a lot of questions as to what does the American education system leads to, what kind of graduates are coming out of these fancy universities that are also leaving them in great debt. By the way, just for that, that's upsetting. Yeah, is obscene, is crazy. I think he should seek help, if anything. It doesn't seem like, if you see his body language, the way he sits, the way he leans forward, it strikes me as just a very disturbing personality, and it could be that what the platforming of him is also an act of cruelty. What he doesn't need this attention, doesn't do him good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. As somebody who has been following the politics, I think I've been following the politics actually with the rise of Donald Trump. It was about 2017, 18, when I was, I think, like 14, when I started like looking more into politics. And I've already been aware of Nick Fuentes back then, so like 10 years ago. So it's always interesting to see sort of when other people are aware of him and how he became, because I view the way he has been growing. And I think it has been especially as interesting as it seems. Charlie Kirk was actually somebody that was sort of holding Nick Fuentes back. Charlie Kirk was somebody who refused to work with Nick Fuentes in any way. The Groypers, or the sort of people behind Nick Fuentes who watch him, have been like occasionally like invading the Turning Point USA events to sort of like ask Charlie Kirk anti-Semitic questions and do that. And sort of now, unfortunately, with Charlie Kirk murder that happened, it really seems like the floodgates are being open, and sort of anti-Semitism is now being allowed to go more in. Again, I should just mention, just for people who are not familiar with Nick Fuentes, we are talking about like Holocaust denier, and we are not even talking about like somebody who like asks questions or even like tries to hide behind it. We are talking about somebody who would actually go, I think once he was asked that if he thinks Holocaust was bad, and he's like, yeah, yeah, if it happened, it was bad. Like he would always say it in this way. And on some cases you could say, wow, that's funny, but that is like what he actually believes in, and that's what people who watch him actually, that's why they watch him for, to get this kind of not even dog whistles, like dog megaphones almost. He is also absolutely anti-American and anti-Constitution. He said that he would be for replacing the American Constitution with some sort of theocracy, with some sort of Catholic theocracy. Not big of a fan of the other Christian denominations even. So yeah, this is the person we're dealing with. And I mean, to go to you, Michael, I'm not sure if you've seen the original Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes interview from a week ago, but this is the person again that Tucker Carlson did invite, and I think most importantly, he didn't challenge him on anything. There wasn't any sort of discussion as at some point, Nick Fuentes even like praised Stalin, like actually said he likes Stalin, and Tucker is like, oh wow, that's interesting. And that they just moved on from that, like as if nothing happened. So yeah, Michael, any opening thoughts from you on this?
Yeah, I think we see this on the left and the right. I think Jonathan hit the nail on the head, which is what is the American education system teaching their kids? And from my own kids, which is a small n equals two, and now a third one, but certainly n equals two, who are now 26 and 21, it was appalling what little history they learned. And mostly they learned history by anecdotes. So they got stories of one or two people during a period, which is absurd. This is an absurd way to learn. This is not history. This is somebody's story. And it's the stuff of a good, if nonfiction or fictional novel, historical fiction novel. The American education system is largely, I think it's almost completely responsible for the disasters we are seeing on both the right and the left in America. And on both sides of this, on the left side, we have Columbus not discovering North America. And on the right side, you have Holocaust denying. They don't teach the Holocaust much anymore in American public schools, in most American public schools, because, quote, it will offend some Germans. They don't teach 9/11 much. 9/11/01, September 1st, which the current generation of young people doesn't remember, either because they were babies or they hadn't been born yet. They don't teach that because it might, quote, offend some Muslims, unquote. And human history is somehow been turned into this oppressor and oppressed baloney, this critical race theory crap, which we hear. And it has infiltrated most public school systems that I'm aware of, including in red states. And even when they don't infiltrate with the critical race theory kind of stuff and this oppressor oppressed, they don't teach real history. These kids don't know that Stalin murdered north of 50 million people. They have no idea. They have no idea the number of dead people beyond the Jews in World War II. They frankly don't know anything. And, as the Pennsylvania Dutch, the Amish like to say, is if you don't know history, then you're doomed to repeat it. And unfortunately, we are destined to repeat this stupidity if we keep people stop questioning people like Tucker Carlson, who used to be fairly reasonable and has completely gone off the deep end, and this Nick Fuentes, despicable human being. But this is allowed because our American education system is almost a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, I think what you said is actually very interesting in the way of that people are not, similar to like vaccines, right? If you don't get your vaccine, when the actual disease comes, it might like destroy you. And I think people are lacking inoculation against anti-intellectualism. People are lacking inoculation against this kind of conspiratorial way of thinking. If you go to some of the past guests on Tucker Carlson, or even I think it started with people like Joe Rogan, or probably if you go to like cable, it probably started like decades ago. This kind of thing, like, oh, been taught this in like the schools, right? And a lot of things you are not going to be learned in schools and you shouldn't be learned in schools, like actual sort of like things that happen. But the things that is lacking in schools is sort of the method of arriving at the truth. The fact that somebody can come on camera, tell you a few things. I mean, just remember, I'm not sure if either of you guys were. I think Jonathan, you were on the show when we covered that neo-Nazi historian on Tucker Carlson who was like justifying Nazi atrocities, saying like, oh, they didn't plan for this, or they didn't know whatever happened, and Churchill was actually the chief villain of World War II. So yeah, when you don't have a proper education, then you get people like this, and yeah, people jump over them. It's like, wow, he really seems to know what he says. He really seems to be like knowledgeable about this without actually having the sort of the way to actually properly think about it. Similarly with Tucker Carlson, I'm not sure if you guys seen the clip of him like praising Sharia law and saying, "Oh, this is no different from like American constitutional system." It's like if people have like lacked the basic civics to like understand the American Constitution, to understand the American system, then yeah, you get people with Tucker Carlson being able to say this stuff, be the one of the biggest political podcasts, and basically get away with it.
Yeah,
So
Dan, sorry,
yeah,
just to jump
yeah,
in real
sure.
quick, because I do think you hit a very important fundamental point. It's not just that they have not been taught how to think, and they choose not to think because it's easier to just absorb and react. The teaching of the American Constitution and the Declaration of Independence in particular, one of the most beautiful documents in the history of humanity, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is fundamentally missing from most American education. And the reason, I think one of the foundational reasons or ideological reasons that people like Tucker Carlson can exist and Candace Owen on the one side and people like Mamdani and all on the other is because if you don't understand the concept of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then everything goes and everything is equivalent. It's very easy to say that that Sharia law and the American Constitution are the same because you didn't learn any. All you learned it was the American Constitution, and we put up some kind of a country based on a set of rules. And Sharia law is a set of rules. And this, I will say to people, the fundamental problem in America is that mostly are in the humanities because the sciences still have to get to a right answer. The humanities have absolutely destroyed the last two generations in terms of educating them properly and with any kind of background in reasonable Western civilization and thought.
So moving further, we can go and cover Kevin Roberts. Although, Jonathan, do you want to mention something before we go into the Heritage Foundation part?
I just had one thought about how important it is to raise a generation that knows how to think on a fundamental level, on casting doubt on whatever assertions people make to try to use their own minds and to see whether it's true. And when you have a millions of teenagers, of young adults raised without that ability, whenever somebody comes in and he speaks very nicely, very eloquently, and he emotes in a way that touches their emotions, they recognize it as true because they don't have any other way of recognizing if it's true or not. They don't know how to apply logic. They don't apply the reason. And that vacuum allows people such as Carlson to bring guests who say these outlandish things. And because it sounds nice, because it makes them feel better, they're falsely identified with truth. And that's very dangerous. That's where dictators can enter. That is very, very dangerous for America. It could lead to the end of America, the prominence of these people.
Yeah, and sort of when, as we said, people like that start showing up, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, I think Ian Carroll, somebody mentioned in the chat. What is important is sort of how is it going to be accepted by the sort of the more, let's say, the more respectful parts of that side. So now we have the Heritage Foundation, one of the sort of more respected sort of right-wing think tanks, and specifically Kevin Roberts, the president of it, coming out. So this is it's about 2 minutes. I think we should watch the whole thing. Wait, what is it? Oh, here we go. I think it is a little bit over 10 minutes, and this is after the Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson interview. And again, this is Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts.
I'll have more to say on this in the coming days, but today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support. And we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either. When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left. As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's where our allegiance lies, and that's where it will stay.
So I've covered this whole video for half an hour on Sunday. People can check out the earlier episodes so we don't have to like dissect every single thing. But I mean, Michael, to go to you, in some cases he is absolutely right. Or I understand sort of, yeah, you want to have a certain amount of coalition against the left, and I think even proper to a large extent. But my question would be like, okay, but what are your actual values? And when it comes to this coalition, where does it actually stop? At what point is it like, okay, maybe like these kind of people, like outright anti-Semites, like conspiracists who say, we'll go into some of the things Tucker said in a little bit, but who are behind these things. And even when he talked about Nick Fuentes, right, he says, I disagree and abhor his ideas. But we should challenge them and not cancel them. But Tucker didn't. Tucker didn't challenge them. He didn't invite Nick Fuentes to challenge him on. He invited Nick Fuentes to agree with everything he says and to let him basically bring a new audience to like these crazy anti-American ideas.
Look, I think the Heritage Foundation is, as far as it goes, he's this kind of word soup about how he's a Christian first and American always. I don't know what that means, but it's a great soundbite for confusing people and making it all sound good. You either follow the U.S. Constitution or you follow or not. And there are times when the Bible or whatever he believes in Christianity clearly come in conflict with the two. And then we're left to figure out, well, he's first a Christian, but he's always an American. So what does that mean? So it's like all public things dumbed down and spun for support from a group. What I overall, I think the Heritage Foundation, I'm not a supporter of the Heritage Foundation. I'm right center, to be clear to everybody, and I'm an objectivist. So on the, which I think is more about right and wrong rather than left and right, as Anders Ingmarsson likes to say. But I do support generally most of their ideas. I think they are prioritizing correctly. I agree with you, Daniel. Tucker's despicable and Nick Fuentes is more despicable. But you got to pick your battles. And I'll just say it strikes me as amazing because Israel can be fighting a war for its life, and it can elevate a discussion about whether there were some bad acting soldiers who absolutely need to get on trial and be prosecuted appropriately. But you can't elevate the entire country's war and the separately the soldier problems, which every country has. There are always bad acting soldiers. Wartime brings it out, but it's always true. And you can't make that the national discussion at the same time as you're fighting for your life. It is a fundamental prioritization problem. In medicine, it's the same thing as treating somebody's hypertension, mild to moderate hypertension, when they're dying of cancer. The patient will die with good blood pressure if you do that, and that's not appropriate. So I understand where he's coming from. I don't like it per se, but I think the battles to be fought are so strong on the left, and frankly, just the ignorance that's out there. I'm not sure that the Heritage Foundation can fix the ignorance, because if you're sitting there telling people that the world was created in 7 days or 6 days with a day of rest, I'm not sure that's the answer either. But certainly the left is committing so many despicable anti-Western, anti-American, anti-liberty kind of, and certainly negative, non-objectivist, if you will, crimes, probably too strong a word, but certainly mistakes, that he's got to pick his battles. And I think I understand where it's coming from. I think from a practical matter, it's reasonable.
Well, I do have some things to say about that, but I'll throw it to Jonathan first
Okay.
for your thoughts on this.
Well, I haven't seen the full video, but it seems very confused.
Of this one?
This two, no, the full video. I understand there's a fuller one.
Oh, okay.
He's speaking in a very strange way. Like he's trying to make the water seem deep by muddying it, as Nietzsche said. But I'm saying it wrong. But there's a Nietzsche quote about that. I don't understand what he's on about. Why would he always support Tucker Carlson? Is he like is there some eternal value in Tucker Carlson? Is he not to be corrupted? Never, always correct, always will be fine, never do mistake. They will always support him. And which was strange to me. It occurred when he said that. Another thing, what is there exactly to debate with somebody like this Nick? What is there to debate? He says the Holocaust didn't happen. How are we to debate that? And why should we bother? Have we no better things to do than to waste our time with confused, troubled souls such as this Nick? I don't understand the value in it. I don't understand. I'm very much pro canceling people who are despicable, they should be morally condemned, and his views are heinous, and he spreads them on a mass, and he should be canceled. Yes, why not? What's the problem with that? On a private platform, that is, not a government, whatever that will mean. Like, obviously, we're talking about a private thing. If we have the ARCUK, if this Mr. Nick was a guest, heaven forbid, it will be very reasonable for us to say, after he would say something like how much he liked Hitler or Stalin, we would say, we don't have Nick anymore on the program. We don't like to platform these views. We stand for something else. We stand for better views, to put it mildly. I don't see a problem with that. Why is that a problem to do that? And he didn't say why it's a problem. Just the fact that he is on the right, whatever that means he has to be platformed and be watched by millions of people. I disagree with that. I think is very morally confused and stupid, frankly. It doesn't promote right wing. It promotes not in a rational sense. It promotes ideas that erode anything that was good in the right. When the right is confused with Holocaust deniers, with neo-Nazis, those types, then their reputation is not so good. People would like to vote for a Republican Party where they have some representation of whatever that silly name of his organization was. What was it? Something with a G. Where whatever that movement he has, this Nick.
Oh, Groypers.
Yeah, yes, that thing. Whenever that is represented in a republic, it's not a good look for the right. Why should they condone that? So I don't understand. I don't understand this, and I'd love if you understand that, Dan, to explain it to me because it's just very confusing what I had just heard.
Yeah, I'll go to that, but just quickly because some people say, debate him, talk about the ideas. But I think even when it comes to debate, there has to be some fundamental underlying principles you both accept, and then there has to be honesty about the debate. I don't think you can debate with somebody who's dishonest, which, as somebody who has been watching Nick Fuentes, not actively watching, but sort of seeing him and stuff for 10 years, he is absolutely dishonest. If you watch him debate, he will like joke about things. He will like, oh, I don't actually believe in that, hiding his true beliefs. He won't commit to many of the beliefs. So it's hard to ask like debate with somebody dishonest. Like me and Michael, are on very different side when it comes to Trump, and we can like debate things. But if one of us like was dishonest about what Trump actually stands for, then we also couldn't really talk about it, right? We can debate sort of the our view of how it would be more proper, but at least we agree on like what he actually stands for. But with Nick Fuentes, he hides it, so it's impossible to actually debate somebody dishonest. The only thing you're doing is you're giving credence to his ideas. Now, when it comes to sort of the reason why they are trying to sort of defend people, no, I should say that the Heritage Foundation had many top staffers basically threatening to leave, and I think some have even left. So now Heritage Foundation is sort of like backing off a little bit from it. But yeah, I mean, again, I sort of understand. I can understand sort of again, as I've said, you want to have a certain amount of coalition to run against the Democrats, right? It's the goal of politics is to win elections. I mean, as somebody from Israel, the two of you from Israel, we see the coalitions of the right, right? It's you have yeah.
That, if I may
Sure,
interject,
sure.
sorry. The first Hitler government was formed as a coalition. It was a coalition. It was a coalition of the NSADP, the Nazi Party, and the NVPD, if I remember correctly, the National German something party. And
Yeah.
the chancellor was Franz von Papen, who was not a Nazi. He was not a member of the Nazi party. So here you go, a coalition to fight against the left, against the communists. The communists were coming to control Germany, and you had an election and you had a choice. You can do a coalition with Hitler to not become the left, or you can and then what happened? What did we have? Maybe actually, Mr. Nick, he's taking this example right from the history book, right? He wants to be in the coalition with the Franz von Papen of our time, and join and form the first what is it called? White nationalist? I don't know this. I'm sorry, I'm a bit I'm not into this bizarre thing you have there in America. But whatever that is, it's been done before. That's a coalition.
Yeah, and I think that's what to sort of go to Michael's. I think that's the sort of and it's hard to judge sort of like what people to ally with when it comes to sort of like winning the election. But yeah, when it starts going in this way, like you still, even the Republican Party right now, I think I like to believe still has some values, still has some things they stand for, right? And yeah, if you like yeah accept an actual neo-Nazis into like this is people we are okay with. Now I could go you know, I'm not sure if people you remember this was about 3 years ago when Nick Fuentes actually and Kanye West went to Mar-a-Lago with Trump. Now Trump didn't know Kanye West was being invited, so you could like excuse his like ignorance, and he distanced himself from Nick Fuentes. He like completely abandoned it, and I think good for Trump to actually like you know, say, okay, like this neo-Nazi guy, yeah, I'm not with Nick Fuentes. But yeah, how far are we away from, especially if you take the current administration, right? People like J.D. Vance, people like, what's the national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, if those, and their stance on Israel, right? Or Qatar, or like regional alliances, if those people start getting taking over the Republican Party, then you know now I can see now some people being more for the Republican Party. But let's say the Republican Party loses the Israel issue and loses like a few more good issues on that, then what else do we have? So I
Well,
mean, yeah,
you've got the Democratic Party, which is openly anti-Semitic and very proud of it. Very proud of it. You've got the old guard completely baffled what to do, including Jewish Chuck Schumer, who is completely lost and a joke, a total laughingstock of the city. You have Bernie Sanders, who frankly needs to pass away, and even though he's an
I would.
independent.
So sorry to jump in because like I think if we even agree, like I do want, like I would still prefer the preservation of the current Republican Party than it devolving
Oh, I
more
would
into.
too. I would argue, and sorry to interrupt you, but
Sure,
you
no,
asked
no,
the
good.
question, so
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're caught between a rock and a hard place, and I don't think they're going to get better. In fact, I actually think things are headed in the wrong direction because until we get somebody in here who's a common sense person, and frankly, it goes back, in my opinion, to simple stuff like no crime, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let people try to achieve their own personal goals, enable them to as much as possible. I mean, this is not difficult stuff. You shut your borders, you enforce vaccinations. I mean, there's so many common sense things that don't even need a political opinion to be addressed. And what has happened, unfortunately, with this social media and the best term of all, of course, social justice, which is a joke because you either have justice or you don't, is that what you've got is ridiculous polarizations. And instead of right and wrong, people, and even common sense, which is what Donald Trump largely ran on, what you have is just utter stupidity. And you have it on both sides, and you've got the problem. And you're right, Daniel. It's right now the reason I'm a Trump supporter is not because I love Trump. I like a lot of the things he does, but I don't like some of it. But the other side is horrendous and getting worse. And you may be right. The Republicans may be horrendous, but I do think the question of why they don't have any principles. I think that's. I think you're crazy if you think any politician really has principles. There might be a few people like Vance that are good Christians or see themselves as good Christians, who just happens to be married to a non-Christian wife, but loves to talk about his Christianity. And he sees himself as a good guy, but and he might have Christian principles. But my point is, they don't have any real principles. The politicians are there for one reason: power. And we need to stop kidding ourselves. We would love to get a politician who actually comes back to doing stuff that's very simple.
Yeah, again, it's sort of like I think we do fundamentally agree, sort of like what would be the better outcome, right? We just disagree on how it might happen. And yeah, this is sort of you know, maybe I'm still young and idealist, and it's like, but like when you say, you know, politicians don't have principles, it's like I agree, right? That's not a good thing, right? So I want to enforce And I want even people like Ben Shapiro, which I'm always surprised when I have to like defend Ben Shapiro. But Ben Shapiro coming out and saying like, and he already is somebody who I think compromised way too much of his own principles to sort of still like stay on the right. But now he is like giving a hard stance, right? Okay, like I know we've accepted a lot of things, but do we allow like actual anti-Semites to become like a staple of the Republican Party?
We just don't have a choice. Because the other option is to elect, to go on the left side where you have the whole group of them, Congress people, these squad people, and you got people like Schumer who's unable to stand up for any principle. Sorry, Jonathan, I'm taking over. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jonathan, do you want to add something to this?
Oh, no, I'm interested in what Michael has to say. It's very disturbing whatever you have there in America. It's funny to me that like in Israel, cancellation in politics is like the biggest issue. Is like we have one half of the country has canceled Netanyahu, and that's the whole issue. Like we won't sit with Netanyahu, and we will sit with Netanyahu. That was the whole political divide. And here there's this big drama about canceling this esoteric, bizarre character. I find it quite funny. Even people as normal compared to him here are being cancelled quite viciously, as a matter of fact here, which I don't support. He should be cancelled for his bad policy and bad history, not because of his personality, which is what the left makes here in Israel, attacks on Netanyahu. And we should absolutely debate ideas. I'm very much for that. But we don't need to have him here for that. We can tell from afar that his ideas are pretty bad, and we can determine whether or not we want to host him. And in this particular instance, I think it's pretty reasonable to see that we don't have much to discuss about with this Mr. Nick. It's just beyond the scope of discussion of this channel. I think will be rather reasonable to say than to put it very mildly. But the biggest issue is he's evil. He represents evil ideas. And we don't like that. We like to have the good people around, We like to have Michael who's inventing new medicine. Like that's much nicer than a guy who what does he make a living of, this guy? What is he like? Does he make a living from screaming at his monitor in this silly green
Mr.
screen
Nick?
videos? Like his did you see his setup? Is like ridiculous green screen that he has this New York background. Did you see that? It was on the Ben Shapiro video. It looks so ridiculous.
I mean, when Nick Fuentes, he is basically banned on like the major social media. So he has his own streaming website actually, and he makes he gets money from his supporters. And I think he has his own conference. I'm not sure if he's doing them yearly, but I know he had his own conference. So it is
There's
a
a
whole.
conference of these people. Wow.
Yep, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene also spoke there. Yeah, I think it's called America First conference or something. Maybe AFPAC. Yeah, America First. Yeah, that's happening. So to go,
Very
yep, yeah, to go a bit more to Ben Shapiro. So. Interestingly, I found like a video of him from like 3 years ago. Again, when he talked about this, Nick Fuentes being at Mar-a-Lagos, at Trump's Mar-a-Lagos, and yeah, he talked about how maybe we shouldn't accept it. And if, funnily enough, he like defended Tucker in that video, and now we see Tucker also going that route. Of course, Candace Owens also used to work for the Daily Wire. So Ben Shapiro himself has had a lot of And actually, funnily enough, Ayn Rand Center UK has a video from like a few years ago called "No Place for Ben Shapiro," where we talked about how he himself is allowing a lot of this like conspiracism on both his own side and interestingly, Ben Shapiro himself is like connected to all parts of it. Originally, it was Nick Fuentes back in 2016 like published an article where he criticized Israel, and Ben Shapiro actually responded to it. So it's interesting how far back it goes. But yeah, when sort of going into Ben Shapiro's response again, I think it was proper, and I don't know. Maybe we should have this whole discussion about sort of like at what point do you hide, or at what point do you disagree to working with somebody, because yeah, especially with somebody like well, actually, let's play the video from Tucker Carlson specifically. So this was after the murder of Charlie Kirk, when and this was specifically at his funerals, when this is the speech Tucker Carlson was giving.
Ultimately, he was a Christian evangelist. And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Everything is inverted.
So again, you have
Hysterical.
it's Tucker Carlson at Charlie Kirk's funeral. He says, it reminds me the murder of Charlie Kirk reminds him of his favorite story. And he tells a story about hummus eaters killing Jesus. Like actual anti-Semitic conspiracy. I think when he was later asked about it, he's like, well, everybody eats hummus. Like, come on, you're clearly hinting towards specific people. And
the Palestinians.
yeah, I'm sure Palestinians were big in that time. But yeah, here is what he's actually peddling. And again, there is a question like, is Tucker Carlson anti-Semitic? So. Michael, any more? I'm not sure if you got a chance to actually look at the Ben Shapiro's video he did. It was about 40 minutes where he did go through a lot of these things. But yeah, it's sort of like my and I did ask myself this question also when I think when Trump got elected, because I'm when it comes to Democrat Republican. Or more of a when it comes to Democrat Trump, I would sort of prefer, as bad as to say, it's sort of the Democrat side, which is really sad. But when it was like with Kamala Harris, that was like, I would take Joe Biden like really like ungladly. But when it comes to like somebody like Kamala Harris, that was when like I can like really understand sort of like anybody voting for Trump. But if again, sort of this was my question, right? If even the Trump side starts getting worse and goes the J.D. Vance route, goes the like actual accepting anti-Semitism, or goes even the Nick Fuentes route, right? In the next decade or so, if Nick Fuentes starts getting more wave in the Republican Party. Not to mention, there is a chance that Democrats will get even worse, right? In 10 years, you'll have Mamdani versus Nick Fuentes running for presidential election. That's going to be like, that will be the worst case scenario. But yeah, it's like, Michael, I guess I think the main question would be like, what is the way out? Are we simply just prolonging it by, even sort of accepting the lesser evil, be it Trump or be it any other Republican, but like how do we actually get out of this, right? Or will it just keep
Yeah,
getting?
look,
Yeah.
that's a great question, and obviously, I wish I had a crystal ball, and more importantly, I wish I had a way to give us a reasonable person. Trump could have been that reasonable person. He was wealthy enough that he's not in the deep pockets of a lot of people. He's potentially much more so than most politicians. He could have been. And I still think he's better than most. And I think Kamala Harris the war would still be going on with Gaza. It actually wouldn't, because Israel would have surrendered already, and the hostages would still be there being dripped out. I mean, she's a horrendous. Not only is she an idiot, and I'm happy to have any of the various public comments that she's made to discuss that, but she has zero foundational philosophy at all. You know, she studied a math. That's one of her best lines, and her word salad, which was the subject of this recent lawsuit that Trump won, is another testament. But how do we get out of it? We need to get some people in politics that are reasonable. And there's been talk, there's been a push to try to have a different party. There's an American Capitalist Party by one of our Mark Pellegrino, one of our objectivist friends. This is terrific stuff. The problem is that it requires thinking, and it requires people that are invested. And when you have a guy like Bill Ackman sending out, one of the Jewish business leaders of New York, who was certainly at the forefront of the college anti-Semitism crap, and he fought beautifully, and he withdrew his support, for Columbia and other places. When you have him writing to Mamdani, congratulations on your win, let's figure out how to work together to make, or if I can help you make New York better, let me know. That's despicable. And this is a Jewish leader. It's a Jewish business leader, but more importantly, it's a businessman. And until we get some candidates that go into politics that are not on either side of the aisle, but actually want to do there's simple stuff to do. And frankly, the Heritage Foundation, and I agree with a lot of what they said, except for the Christianity part, because I don't buy any of that. But when they say things like, we just want to do what's right and American citizens come first, it's real simple stuff when you worry about the people that are funding your government, and stop thinking the government makes money. It doesn't. So I hope we can get some candidates that are reasonable. Human beings tend to have things become catastrophically bad before they will do anything about it. New York City, before Rudy Giuliani came in on the head of the police force, was a disaster. It was a crime-infested, filthy, dirty cesspool. It was awful. And I grew up in Philadelphia, not far, and we never went down to New York because, frankly, we were afraid and disgusted. And Giuliani came in and he said, zero tolerance. We're going to stop crime. And it's real simple. You put a policeman on every corner and you have zero tolerance. These are problems that have been solved over and over again. But it seems that people want to repeat this crap. And it's unfortunate. So until we have, the answer is we may need a new political party, which is going to take a while, but we certainly need some new politicians who have a much clearer view of simple, basic stuff that works.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned actually sort of the big businessmen and the fact that they are bending the knee, and that is really unfortunate to see. I mean, I quickly just went to check the Bill Ackman because I haven't seen that, because I know he endorsed Cuomo actually for the election, which again, well, wow, Cuomo.
Yeah.
But endorsed Cuomo instead of Mamdani. But yeah, I see that he did congratulate and said, yeah, I'm gonna be, I can work with you. And yeah, it's unfortunate that we do not see, like we saw glimpses, glimpses of, Elon. If you remember, guys, Elon Musk in the past, when somebody asked like, how are the regulations gonna work in the space when you go to Mars, how is the government gonna regulate you? And he's like, well, they can shake their fist at the sky. You had Jeff Bezos from Amazon oftentimes like coming out and to the government basically standing up to it in some cases. But yeah, you have time after time them coming and to both sides, right? If we even take Trump's inauguration, you had Mark Zuckerberg, I think even Jeff Bezos, you had them being at the fact that like you have businessmen at like inauguration of presidents is like scary part in itself, right? That it's like, oh, you have to go pay your respects to the king, whichever side it is on, to basically not go after you. And it is, unfortunate. Um, Jonathan, any any thoughts on how to get out of this hole?
How to get out? Well, first of all, I will advise the Jews of America to make Aliyah, first step to get out. That's what I would advise them. Although I'm not an expert on whatever is going on in America now. We're building great things here in Israel. I can tell you that. There's going to be a real renaissance here of this new generation of our courageous generation that have done so much above and beyond, more than any other generation in the world. They've proven they are real titans, so many of our people. And I think there's a lot of hope for that. Contrasting that with the generation of America, I think it's quite a stark contrast and not very optimistic due to the nature of the contrast. So I would advise, especially those of New York, to look into Tel Aviv as a much better alternative at this point. Much better weather, by the way. It's November and it's 30 degrees, believe it or not. That's why I don't have my suit
Hey,
on.
Miami ain't bad.
Miami is not bad either. Yeah, well, there's still good parts. Absolutely.
And also, Mamdani said he won't visit Israel, so you won't have to be scared of that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great.
We don't need them.
No, absolutely not. We have our fair share of mom dunnies in our own politics, but that's a different that's a different topic. Yeah, fight for truth. When say the things as they are to the people don't let them casually slide these evil ideas into everyday conversation. Just take a stand. Take a stand wherever you can. If you work as the people of the Heritage Foundation, if you work at an organization that takes a very bad morals stand. For example, if they were issuing a statement supporting Hamas, as there were some organizations that have done that, you should take a stand. You should tell them, "I'm not going to work for you if you do this." Arrange a group of workers, yeah, of employees. Just take a stand wherever you can. That's, I think, the least one can do. And yeah, it seems really bleak in America, unfortunately. But I'm very optimistic for Israel. So come visit, see the great things we're doing here. And yeah, I think that's a positive. But that clip of Mr. What's his name, Tucker Carlson, is hysterical. Like that's this evil laugh at the end. Like it's comic. He's a really clownish figure. I don't know how people take him so seriously. And again, hummus eating is more of an Arabic tradition. So I would more associate it as an Islamophobic, God forbid, Islamophobic comment than anti-Semitic, actually. So the Mamdani should go after him.
Well, Muslims didn't exist back then.
But the tradition of eating hummus,
sure,
the way that he's referring to, also did not exist. So
really?
yeah, I checked that.
Oh, interesting.
Look it up.
So he went out of his way to like do like historical revisionism just to like make it
Exactly.
Well, it's a bit
which is-
ironic because the Arabs are always sort of the ones that get along with us Jews here in Israel. And by the way, I'm calling today from Tel Aviv, as Jonathan said. They're always joking around who actually invented hummus, and there's an ongoing joke about this. I mean, for what it's worth. One last thing I would add, Daniel, because I know we're running on low on time, is the other issue is to sort of follow the money. And one of the quick background, there was a millionaire's tax that was passed a few years back in Massachusetts to raise additional money and penalize the people who actually create value. And the people that were on the more objectivist side, certainly the right wing, thought that this would lead to the exit of millionaires from Massachusetts. and it dipped very slightly, and then it sort of leveled out that over $2 billion a year is brought in from the millionaires who have not exited Massachusetts. I did exit Massachusetts. We do hold property there, but we live in, our main venue is Florida, for not only the weather, but because of the tax laws. But unless the New Yorkers vote with their economic feet, the millionaires and billionaires and the successful people and the middle class will be footing the bill for all of this absurdity that's supposed to happen in New York, while crime rates, if he does what he says, will go up and so on. And it's the same thing on the right side. If money talks, and if people don't vote with their feet and vote with their pockets, and it used to be people voted with their pockets, you can debate what the mayoral election, whether they were sort of doing that. But the bottom line is it's not going to matter, because as long as people are funded, and I do think it's why Tucker Carlson has a ridiculous following. I think it's why the Heritage Foundation puts up with it, because all they do is now is look at numbers and numbers of followers, and they're afraid to lose followers. I think they've lost their philosophical pathways, and it's all about the numbers, and then that's where the money goes. So until the money changes a bit, we're all going to be in deep caca.
Yeah, and on that, I would just throw, and maybe this deserves a full episode, but apparently the governor of Texas, Abbott, wants to impose tariff on like New Yorkers. So it's like the best people or the people willing to leave New York to actually, punish New York City for what it's doing. Those are the people that he will target.
Well, he's afraid, there's crying about this, not to that extent, also in Florida, because the attitudes these people bring in is tolerance for illegal immigrants, tolerance for crime. I mean, being a New Yorker and paying the ridiculous tax rates that you do in that city where the roads are in terrible condition, blah, blah, in Manhattan and so on, it carries a lot of this tolerance stuff with it that, frankly, many of the people in these red states just don't like. That's the main issue. That's why you hear Abbott speaking out.
I mean, again, I could like understand it to some extent, but again, the idea that now we like America is like becoming Canada, where like every province has like a tariff on every other province to like protect their own industry. It's
Well, we're a little more efficient and effective than Canada.
well, yeah, because like the free trade is a lot, but yeah, once you like stop like moving of people between states and between
yeah, it won't happen. It was a good soundbite. Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's hope. But well, with that, just quickly, Michael, any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
Nope, no last thoughts. Kaufman, KAUFFMAN on LinkedIn.com, or LinkedIn, obviously.
Jonathan?
You can find me on philosophyIneeded.com. Link is in the description. Subscribe. There's great things coming up on my blog. Very good blog.
The best blog I've heard. Many people said it's the best blog. Well, with that, thank you guys for joining me today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Daily Objective and the Reality Show. Until then, bye-bye.
Thank you.